You ever see something so unusual, so unexpected, that you just stop in your tracks? Something that makes you rethink what you thought you knew about the way the world works. Well, let me tell you a story about something like that. About an unusual friendship that probably shouldn't have happened, but did. So picture this. You're out for a walk, same route as always, when suddenly you see something on the ground. It's small, barely moving. You step closer, and there it is. A bird, covered in dirt, feathers ruffled, looking like it's barely hanging on. What do? Keep walking. Stop and check. Well, that's exactly what happened to Julietta one day. She was out with her dog, Peggy, when she spotted a tiny magpie in rough shape. And instead of walking past, she stopped. She bent down, looked at the bird, and her heart just sank. It looked bad. Its feathers were dirty, its little body weak. It wasn't flying away. It wasn't even trying. And Peggy, her Staffordshire Terrier, just stood there staring, ears perked up, sensing that something wasn't right. Now, what would you do in this situation? Would you pick the bird up? Call someone? Walk away and hope for the best? Julietta didn't hesitate. She called her husband, Reese, and together they decided they couldn't just leave the poor thing there to die. That's when they made a choice, a simple but powerful choice to help. They gently scooped up the bird and took it home. But then came the next question. What now? Birds aren't like cats or dogs. You can't just put out a bowl of food and hope they're okay. So they called a vet. The vet gave them advice on how to care for the little magpie, what to feed it, how to keep it warm, and what signs to watch for. And with that, Julietta and Reese got to work. At first, things didn't look good. The bird, who they later named Molly, barely moved. She slept a lot. She wouldn't eat much. Julietta and Reese started wondering, was this even going to work? Were they just delaying the inevitable? Have you ever tried so hard to help someone, but deep down you felt like you might be wasting your time? Like, no matter what you did, it might not be enough? That's exactly how they felt. And then, slowly, things started to change. Molly started eating a little more, started moving around a bit, started showing signs that maybe, just maybe, she was going to make it. And here's where things get really interesting. You'd think a dog like Peggy, a strong Staffordshire Terrier, wouldn't get along with a tiny, fragile bird. You'd think instinct would kick in, that Peggy might see Molly as prey. But that's not what happened. Instead, Peggy was careful, curious, but careful. She'd sniff Molly, but never got too close, never barked at her, almost as if she knew that Molly needed time, needed space. And in return, Molly didn't seem afraid of Peggy either. Days passed. Molly got stronger, and then something incredible happened. One day, instead of sleeping away from Peggy, Molly hopped closer, close enough to touch, and Peggy? She didn't move away. She didn't growl. She just lay there, still, like she understood what was happening, like she knew that, somehow, this tiny bird needed her. Have you ever seen an animal do something so pure, so gentle, that it makes you rethink what you thought you knew about them? That's what happened here. Molly could have left. She was strong enough now. The windows were open. She could have flown away, back to the wild, back to where she belonged. But she didn't. She stayed. She stayed because something had changed. Molly, this tiny magpie, had bonded with Peggy, the big, strong dog. And Peggy, she had bonded right back. They started spending all their time together, eating side by side, sleeping next to each other, playing in their own little way. And then, get this, Molly even started mimicking Peggy, started making little barking sounds, almost like she was trying to speak dog. Can you imagine that? A bird barking. It's funny how sometimes the most unlikely friendships turn out to be the strongest ones. How sometimes the people or animals you least expect to connect with end up being the ones you need the most. Molly wasn't just a bird anymore. She wasn't just a wild animal that had been saved. She was part of the family. And Peggy. Well, Peggy, despite her age and the fact that she wasn't as playful as she used to be, found something she didn't even know she was missing, a friend who truly understood her. Molly did eventually fly away a few times, but she always came back, always found her way home, because home wasn't just a place anymore. It wasn't just a house with open windows. Home was where Peggy was. So what does this story tell us? What can we take from it? Maybe it's a reminder that love doesn't follow rules, that friendship isn't about looking the same or acting the same. It's about connection, about being there for someone even when the world says you shouldn't. Maybe it's about second chances, about how sometimes the ones who seem the weakest, the ones who look like they won't make it, just need a little kindness, a little patience to find their strength again. Or maybe, just maybe, it's about how we all need a Peggy in our lives, someone who doesn't judge, who doesn't push us away, who just lets us be who we are and accepts us anyway. If this story touched you, if it made you think about the friendships in your own life, the expected ones, the unexpected ones, then take a moment to share it, because you never know who might need to hear this today. And if you've ever had a friendship like this, one that didn't make sense on paper, but made all the sense in the world in your heart, let me know. I'd love to hear your story. Because in the end, isn't that what life is about? Finding those connections, those moments of pure, unexpected love, and holding on to them for as long as we can. Thanks for listening. And hey, go be someone's Peggy today. You never know who might need you.